Sick and Petite junior brother is fishing for me again today. Introduction. Master waved and brought junior brother to 9-year-old Adai. Adai, this is junior brother. Junior brother's face bulged with anger. She's 9 years old, I'm already 700 years old. Why am I a junior brother? Master presented 7 fruits and taught them to count to 7. He added 2 more and counted to 9. He asked, is 9 more than 7? Adai and his junior brother looked at the fruit. Chapter 1. Good Pain. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Xinghua Village is named after a apricot blossom forest behind it. At this moment it is spring, and the apricot blossom forest is bustling with activity, stretching for miles and attracting children to dive into the forest. In this season's mountains, it's not only beautiful but also delicious. After playing for a long time, you can eat wild fruits and have a round belly, and then pick baskets of wild vegetables to go home. If you're lucky, you can catch a wild rabbit or chicken, and go back home to have a tooth festival to improve the food. But the children only dare to wander around the forest, while they dare not go deep into the mountains. Poisonous insects and fierce beasts are frightening, and there has been a saying passed down from generation to generation in Xinghua Village. There are monsters in the mountains. As for the stories of how monsters specialize in eating children, they are all made up in various ways, even adults believe them. Therefore, not to mention children, adults will not easily enter the deep mountains, except for one person. Adai, the 3rd girl from the Lin family in the east of the village. At this moment, the sound of rustling footsteps could be heard from deep in the forest. From a distance, a child in his teens walked unsteadily with something in his arms. As I approached, I realized it was a little girl, not tall, somewhat solid, with a round face and a round body. She also had 2 thrusts, making her head appear even more round. Perhaps due to her frequent running in the mountains, her skin was black. At this moment, what she was trying to hold was a little deer. A deer about the same height as her. I couldn't tell how hard she was working, but the little deer's body almost covered her entire face. She struggled to lift her chin and looked at the road with a pair of dark eyes. Behind her was a big basket that was even fatter than her, filled with baskets of wild vegetables and fruits, all spiky. Here it is. Adai is here. A few boys stirred up a slight movement and quickly disappeared into the bushes. Adai picked a basket full of wild vegetables and fruits today, and even smashed a little deer. The deer was foolish and lay motionless. She fell from the tree and hit it perfectly. The little deer's white eyes are about to roll up to the sky. You're so foolish. Your whole family is stupid. Who is still? It's just resting under the tree. Who would have known that a small chubby mound from the sky would weigh it down and make it unable to get up? Adai's mind was full of thoughts, completely unaware of what was wrong ahead. She even struggled to see the way. Where else can I see? The little deer rolled its eyes and simply closed them. After walking for another 10 zhang, Adai suddenly felt empty under her feet. With the rustling of the soil, she fell down and sat in a hole. The soil, grass shavings, and branches hit her face, and her feet were in excruciating pain. She was caught in a trap. The hole was deep, and Adai's tears rolled in her eyes in pain. A few children clapped their hands and jumped out, laughing loudly one by one. Look, look! We've caught the tide of trouble. Look at her, she's so stupid. Ha ha ha. Hey! There are so many fruits. And wild vegetables. When she fell into the hole, the fruits and wild vegetables in her basket were scattered everywhere. The child quickly picked up wild vegetables and fruits in his own basket, and in an instant, all the wild vegetables and fruits in the ground were picked up. Look! There's still a deer, the child shouted as he looked into the cave. You're not allowed to snatch it. Adai became anxious and stood up suddenly, enduring the pain in his feet, blocking the little deer behind him. A few children, for some unknown reason, suddenly had a fearful expression on their faces. Someone shouted, "There's a monster, run away quickly." In an instant, they ran clean. Adai sat down dejectedly, holding onto the leg of the little deer and leaning against it, his eyes turning red. Little deer, they all say I'm a monster, I'm not. Xiaolu, why doesn't everyone like me? How can I please others? But the little deer is just a deer, how can you answer her? In the eyes of the little deer, the faint red light faded away as the sun sets in the west. The sunset gently embraces the entire apricot blossom forest, with a gentle breeze blowing and petals fluttering, carrying golden dots, scattered on the path leading to Apricot Blossom Village. Adai, Adai. A small sound echoed from above. Adai lifted his head covered in mud and sand, surprised, Little Tail. It's a Little Tail. She was the only child in the village who didn't bully her, but instead was bullied by those children because she was born thin and small. Adai returned from the mountain and quietly placed the fruit on the road to the village entrance. Little Tail knew it was for her and would quietly take it away after Adai left. So, is Little Tail here to find her? Adai, I'll pull you up, you're pulling the rope. Little Tail whispered. Adai's eyes were hot, tears welled up in her eyes, and her little tail was so beautiful a rope fell down from the teary hole, and the little tail trembled in a small voice, saying, Adai, grab it, and I'll be able to pull you. Adai's nose was sour, very worried about Little Tail. I don't know if Little Tail saved him. Will those naughty kids beat Little Tail? Little Tail, tie the rope to the tree and run first. I'll climb up on my own later. Don't let them know, you saved me. There was a moment of silence above my head, and Yu was reading at www.yuukangshu.net when a voice from my Little Tail almost choked up, okay. Adai waited for a while before starting to pull the rope. She felt that Little Tail had already gone far, so she carried the basket on her back, carried the deer, endured the pain in her feet and grabbed the rope with both hands. However, she was not able to climb out of the hole smoothly. On the contrary, with the force of her hands, a large bucket fell from the sky, and a foul odor came crashing down her face. The foul odor poured down along with the falling bucket, pouring all of it onto Adai's body. It's a manure bucket. The little deer reacted quickly, jumping off Adai's shoulder as soon as the bucket fell. However, it was still splashed with some foul-smelling things. It rubbed its fur against the cave wall with disgust, while looking at Adai with a silly look. Adai is daydreaming. He was covered in filth from head to toe, but remained motionless. Until the sound of children echoed from the opening above. Look. She's been fooled by the manure bucket, there's no magic left. I said this method is effective. My mother taught me it. To deal with the disaster star, we need to use the method of throwing feces. My mother also said that it's okay to break dog blood. Then she has no magic left, quickly smash her to death. As soon as the words fell, a large stone fell from the entrance of the cave, hitting Adai's forehead. Blood, mixed with the filth, flowed down. Adai was awakened from a dazed state, with stones of all sizes falling incessantly above his head, and the sound of mischievous revelry outside the cave entrance could not be stopped. It hurts so much, those stones hitting me really hurt. She turned around and saw the little deer standing against the cave wall, forgetting that she still had a trap on her feet. She rushed over and held the deer in her arms, blocking the falling stones for the deer. Why is it a small tale in Chapter 2? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The little deer froze for a moment and struggled hard. Adai tightly hugged him, her small body trembling with pain, but what she said was, "Dear. I'm sorry. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have fallen in either. It's all my fault. Little dear." The little deer continued to look at her like a fool. "Let go of me. I just think you stink too much." Adai murmured, as if to the little deer, and to himself, "Why is it a little tail? Why?" She is used to how the villagers humiliate her. No matter who splashes feces at her, no matter who deceives her, she is not surprised, but why is this person a little tail? The stone hit her back and head, causing a lot of pain. Her feet were caught in a trap, and it was also very painful. However, there was no pain in the deep part of her heart. As she was in pain, there was a voice asking, "Why is it a little tail?" Adai probably never understood this question again, and the falling rocks at the entrance above his head gradually stopped. Just when Adai and the little deer thought that those people had finally stopped, a big fire fell down. It was those naughty children who lit branches and grass balls and threw a big fireball down. Quick! Add grass and branches inside. Hurry up! Burn her to death. Burn the disaster star to death. With these sounds, the branches were constantly thrown into the hole, and the fire inside the hole grew louder and louder. Thick smoke billowed in the cave for a moment, and the fire also surged rapidly. Adai's hair was burned, her clothes were also burned, and with so many stones and injuries, she was already very weak. When the thick smoke smoked, she could no longer hold on and fainted. The little deer jumped back and forth in the hole, but the hole was only so big that wherever it jumped, there was fire. The laughter of the mischievous children at the cave entrance continued to rise and fall, and the little deer was both anxious and angry. Suddenly, those naughty children in the village shouted, "Run! What kind of thing is this? It's so dark. It's an old crow, it will bring bad luck. Why so much? Run quickly. I don't know what happened outside." The naughty children who were still very arrogant just now scattered like birds and animals, and the grey dusk sky outside the cave was completely covered by the darkness. It seems like it suddenly started raining, with water droplets dripping into the hole like a curtain of water, splashing in. The fire went out, but the cave was really smelly. The little deer looked at Adai, who was unconscious, and stepped forward to arch her. Unable to move her, it began to climb along the cave wall towards the entrance. It's really strange for the little deer to climb the wall, but it just climbed up. After reaching the cave entrance, it turned around and glanced at Adai, who was still lying in the smelly cave, then turned around and spread its hooves towards the forest. When Adai woke up, it was already dark through. Opening my eyes and looking towards the cave entrance, the stars were already shining brightly above my head. Adai moved and suddenly cried out in pain. Pain, the whole body was so painful that it was crushed inch by inch, and instantly collapsed back to its original position. "Little deer." She weakly called out and only then realized that the deer was gone, and there was a faint red light in the hole. She looked around and discovered the source of the red light. There was a rope hanging on the cave wall, and it was this rope, faintly shining with a red light. She looked at the dirt all over her body, and the faint sound of her little tail flashed in her ear. The sound was now passing through her heart, and her heart was still tingling. She looked at the rope and dared not touch it. Trembling, he reached out his fingertips and tried again and again at the end of the rope. In the end, his heart sank and he grasped the rope. No, nothing fell down again. She couldn't help wiping away her tears and climbed up the rope. But where is that easy? Her injuries all over her body, with only a slight force, were like 10,000 swords piercing through her body and immediately falling back. The animal trap on her feet tightened again, and the pain pierced her heart. She held back her tears and the pain, and first lifted the trap. Under the faint red light, the area where her feet had been pinched was already covered in blood. She grabbed the rope again, gritted her teeth hard, and used her feet to pedal against the cave wall to borrow force. However, the intense pain once again made her lose her grip and fall again. She must crawl out now, so I worked hard again, fell down again, started over again, fell down again over and over again. She was so painful that she felt dizzy and couldn't remember how many times she had fallen. She only had one belief. She must go out, she must go out. But why did she go out? She didn't think about it and couldn't understand her lips were bitten open, and when she gritted her teeth again and grabbed the rope, suddenly, the rope began to rise automatically. She didn't know why, but no matter what, she didn't dare to let go and held on tightly, even though her hand had worn its skin on the rope. Blood mixed into those red lights, and she persisted. Finally, she was pulled outside the cave and sat on the slightly damp ground and in the cool night breeze. However, no one saw it. I only saw this rope wrapped in red light, tied to a big tree. The surroundings were quiet, without even the sound of the wind blowing through the grass. Thank you. She didn't know who saved her and bowed to the big tree. In the grass behind the tree, 2 black bears watched as the little person under the starry light moved towards home bit by bit. Bit by bit, stumbling and stumbling, Yu slowly swallowed the book www.yuukangshu.net. The dwarf forest behind the black bear flashed with a red light, and a deer disappeared into the halo. I'm finally getting home. Adai felt like he couldn't hold on anymore. She didn't even know how she had walked such a long way back. With every step she took, she felt like she was about to shatter in pain, and the area where the animal trap was pinched on her feet felt like someone was chopping at it with a knife. Adai looked at her familiar earthen wall from afar, feeling a sigh of relief, as well as fear and unease. Dad, I'm afraid I'll hit her again, right? She went out and didn't bring anything back, and even lost her backpack. The elder sister stood at the door, gazing at her. Seeing her, her face lit up with joy and she immediately ran forward to greet her. You've come back, the older sister whispered, but in the blink of an eye, she couldn't help but take a breath of air. Adai's hair was burnt to a large extent, and her face was pitch black, mixed with mud and blood stains. There were several large blood clots on her head and face, swollen. The backpack I brought out in the morning is missing, and my clothes are torn and tattered. My flesh is exposed, and my whole body is smelly, as if crawling out of a manure bucket. Come on, go back. The older sister didn't ask anything because as the older sister, she guessed what had happened to her younger sister, but she couldn't ask more. She couldn't hide her worry and planned to quietly take Adai to Adai's woodshed in the dark. Yes, Adai is not allowed to enter this house and can only stay in a firewood shed. However, as soon as I entered the courtyard door, I heard a fierce voice coming from the darkness. Where did I die? Why didn't I just die outside? Both sisters trembled at the same time. The elder sister subconsciously took the dirty Adai into her arms. Dad. Dad. Chapter 3. Sleeping, I don't know, it hurts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The eldest sister's voice was trembling as she spoke, but just as she shook out a "Dad," her face was hit hard and she was knocked dizzy, her mind buzzing, and Adai in her arms was also pulled out. Adai looked at her sister lying on the ground and the brick that had just been used to smash her elder sister, so scared that she couldn't make a sound. She wanted to help her sister, but suddenly felt a sharp pain in her head. It was her father who pulled at her hair. I've been out surfing all day and haven't even picked up a piece of shit. I knew I was playful. I knew I was playful. Why didn't you play and die outside? Everyone is fine. You're a disaster. You're a demon. I'm going to kill you today. Let you reincarnate to my house to harm me. I can't give birth to a son. Why don't you go die? Amidst the raging curses, she punched and slapped Adai face to face. Adai dared not speak out and curled up in a ball, trembling on the ground. It wasn't until her father stepped on her ankle. The spot where she had been pinched by the animal trap today. That she screamed out in pain, "It hurts. Dad, it hurts. Feet hurts. Why doesn't it hurt you so much?" Next, her father picked up the shovel and the shovel knocked on her feet. Adai couldn't hold back and let out a scream. But the scream did not arouse her father's pity. Instead, her father's shovel hit even harder. No matter where it hit, just hit her on her small body, if you hit her again, you'll kill her. Adele's mother came out and cried out at the top of her throat. Daddy, Daddy, please don't hit me. Second sister also came to plead. You hit me, don't hit Adai. Ah. The older sister was beaten again. I'll fight. I'll beat you to death. There's not a good thing. They're all losers. They're all demons. I'll beat you to death. In fact, Adai doesn't know what the pain is. Every shovel her father comes down, it seems that he has really smashed her into pieces. Where can the pieces know the pain? She didn't know how many times her father had smashed it. It seemed that she had changed from pieces to powder again. The whole person seemed to become light and could not see her father's appearance. She only felt that the appearance of her father waving a shovel in the dark night was more terrible than the first time she saw a big tiger in the mountains. Gradually, she couldn't even hear her voice clearly, only knowing that her mother and sister were crying and shouting, but she didn't know what they were saying. Later, these sounds became farther and farther away, and in the end, she couldn't hear anything. She was completely immersed in the darkness. Did you fall asleep? It's so good to fall asleep, I don't know it hurts anymore. She should have slept for a long, long time. There was clear and cool water on her mouth, and she licked it in a daze. Clear and sweet water poured into her mouth, swallowing it, but her throat felt as if it had been scraped by a knife. Adai, Adai, have you woken up? A mother's voice came in her ear. Adai wanted to move, but his body couldn't move at all. The excruciating pain hit him fiercely, with every inch of his bones in pain, as if he was being struck by an axe. Mother. She opened her mouth but couldn't make a sound. Surrounded by darkness, Adai didn't know if it was night or if he couldn't see it himself. Adai, listen up. Mom has some food and some copper coins here. Take them and leave as soon as it's still dark. Go as far as you can. In the darkness, Adai heard his mother's voice saying. Adai, Adai. Can you get up? Hurry up, don't wait for your dad to wake up. Before he could finish speaking, the door was pushed open. The outside was a gray and gloomy place, with her father standing at the door, blocking the entire door. A gloomy voice sounded, Where do you want to go? With just this sound, Adai's mother was frightened and fell to the ground, her hands behind her, trembling as she looked at the door. Where are you going? With a roar, a black figure rushed towards the door. Immediately after, there were the screams of Adai Nyang, piercing through the tranquility of dawn with each sound, causing people to tremble with fear. Adai wanted to save her mother, but she couldn't move. She couldn't exert any force on her whole body, and couldn't even turn or move. She wanted to exert all her strength to move, but her body still didn't move, and the pain hit her bones. She could only listen to the sound of her father beating her mother, tears streaming down her face, unable to even shout, Mother. Her father was still beating and yelling over there, Bitch. They're all bitches. One by one, they're drinking my blood and eating my meat. They're all coming to harm me. They're coming to kill me. I'll kill you. See if they can beat me. I'll kill you. Kill that little demon. Adai watched as her father's dark figure walked towards her. She was so scared, but she couldn't move. Her mother was so anxious that she shouted, Don't hit Adai. She can't stand it anymore. She will really kill her. I'm going to beat her to death. With a furious roar, after the word he kicked Adai on the body. Adai remembered the door of the miscellaneous room she lived in during winter. It was patched up, and torn again. It was riddled with wounds, and the cold wind blew in. She was cold and sick, unconscious and unable to get up to bed. Her father kicked the door until it was rotten, scolding her for not getting up to work. She felt like a door full of wounds and holes, shattered and painful by her father's kick. Of course, it was painful, more painful than any beating she had received in the past decade. But so what? I can only endure the pain and wait. When will the next pain be even greater? Adai. Adai. Adai, you fight back. You fight back. Auntie is shouting at the top of her lungs, can she fight back now? But she can't do it, she can't even move. Her father, however, became even angrier and lifted a broken jar to smash her hard. Fight back, I'll make you fight back. You bastard. Do you still want to hit me? You little bastard. Adai felt a sharp pain in her head, with fluid slowly flowing down her ears and neck. Her father continued to fight, while her mother got up from the ground and stumbled over, forcefully holding her father and dragging him out. However, her father picked him up from behind and threw him directly into the wall. With a splash, Adai heard her mother fall to the ground, and there was no more sound. Dad, Dad, Mom. Mom's not doing well. Dad. The two sisters trembled and stumbled in, helping up Mom on the ground and squeezing her hard. Although Adai's father didn't care so much about the life and death of his mother, this sentence still prevented her father from continuing to commit atrocities. He threw down the sentence only clean after death, and walked out with a tower-like figure. Adai's mother breathed a sigh of relief, weakly opened her eyes, and called out, Adai. The older sister cried and said, Adai is asleep, Adai is fine, mother. Adai Nyang then closed her eyes again, but spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 4. Dad will come back with the medicine, right? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mother. Mother. Big sister and second sister shouted anxiously, lifting their hands and feet one by one. Before going out, the second sister turned around and glanced at Adai, her tears rolling in her eyes. It's better to die than to live like this. Adai's tears also flowed profusely. She knew she was not likable, and her birth was a mistake. Her father beat and scolded her every day, calling her a demon and a nemesis, saying that she shouldn't have been born into this family, causing her father to have no son. The villagers also dislike her, calling her a disaster star. It is said that on the day she was born, crows flew in groups towards the village, dark and covering the entire sky. The crow is an ominous symbol, just like her the moment she came out of her mother's womb. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. Lightning struck her wooden house, which caught fire. There was a person in the village who inexplicably got lost in the mountains and even broke his leg. Everyone said it was her fault. The next year, there was a severe drought in the village, with no harvest, and everyone said she brought it. She didn't originally have a name, and people like her didn't deserve a name. Later, it was to suppress her demonic aura that her father went to seek advice from experts. The expert said that her family has too much evil energy, so her father has no children. The expert named her Dai, saying that this character suppresses evil. But after changing the name, her father still didn't have a son, her mother never had a child again, and she didn't attract everyone's love. The adults in the village all avoided her from afar, afraid that getting close would bring bad luck, and the children were also afraid of her. However, they always thought of various ways to bully her like they do today. Mom said that if she listens to her father, he will like her. So, she always listened to her father's words. When he asked her to work, she worked hard, washing clothes, chopping wood, cooking, and doing farm work. In summer, she fainted from the sun in the field, and in winter, her hands became red, swollen, cracked, and bleeding. She didn't complain, as long as her father liked it. She wouldn't be afraid of how tired she was. But why does Dad still not like it? Is she not doing enough, not good enough? What exactly is needed to make Dad like it? Adai shed tears, thinking about a question that she had been pondering for many years but still couldn't figure it out. One day and one night have passed. Adai was drowsy, with memories churning in his mind. Being beaten by his father, being thrown stones by villagers, falling into the cesspool dug by village children. Her body seemed to be engulfed in flames, burning to the bone every inch, and she became increasingly confused, as if she could sleep off at any moment and never wake up again. Does the second sister mean to never wake up again when she talks about death? Is she about to die? In fact, if you really die, you won't feel the pain anymore. But she still didn't want to die. In the white snow, she came back with a heavy burden, 1 foot deep and 1 foot shallow. Her mother stood at the door, smiling and singing, "Mom, I've sold it all. Look, I've sold it all." She burned a load of carbon and sold it in half a day, feeling happy. Adai is well behaved. My mother smiled and handed her a roasted sweet potato. Roasted sweet potatoes are so hot that her hands are not even cold anymore. Roasted sweet potatoes are so fragrant, they are the best food in the world. Adai doesn't want to die. If she dies, she won't be able to eat roasted sweet potatoes, nor can she see her mother's smiling expression. She will miss her mother. Adai called out in a daze, still unable to make any sound, but could vaguely hear someone calling her. Adai. Adai. She was really calling her, she didn't hear it wrong. Just, why does it sound like Dad? She struggled to open her eyes and indeed saw his father's terrifying big face in front of her in the dim light. She was so frightened that she trembled all over, unable to utter the word "Dad" for a long time. Unexpectedly, her father suddenly spoke in a gentle voice, "Adai, wake up. Does it hurt? Dad will take you to treat your injury." Treat. Treat the injury. Adai thought he was confused about his injury and must have heard it wrong. How could Dad bring it to treat the injury? She was beaten from childhood to adulthood, and there has never been a saying about treating injuries. The day before, she was beaten, and the next day, regardless of whether it hurt or not, she had to get up and work. Today, she also remembered to continue working, but she couldn't move at all. So, was Dad actually here to scold her for not working? I'll get up and do work. Her throat was sore, but she had to work hard to make a sound, otherwise Dad would hit her again. Stop working. Dad will take you to treat your injury. Adai couldn't believe her ears until she was really burdened by her father. This is her father's first time carrying her. Adai's eyes were bright red. Even if she moved like this, her body was like 1,000 knives scraping bones. She still carefully lay on her father's back, not daring to snort, afraid that it was a dream. As soon as she spoke, the dream woke up. Outside, her mother and elder sister stood at the door weeping, while the second sister stood far away, staring coldly. "Mom, Dad took me to treat my injury." She was both happy and frightened. Her mother and older sister didn't speak, and Yu was just shedding tears while reading. "Mom, Dad. He likes me." Adai's voice was so low that it was almost impossible to hear. After speaking, seeing that her dad was not angry, joy and happiness immediately filled her heart, and tears streamed down her face. Dad really likes her. "Mother, big sister, second sister, wait for me. I'll come back after seeing the doctor. I'll be back. And I'll be able to work hard." Although my anger was lingering, I couldn't conceal my joy. Adai thought her father was taking her to see a doctor, so he waved his hand to his mother, who was shouting, "Adai," behind him, and quietly lay on his father's back, pursing a smile. Dad's back is so wide and warm. It feels so warm that it doesn't even hurt so much on her anymore. When passing by the village entrance, she even saw the little tail, which was hidden behind the big stone at the entrance, revealing half of her face to look at her. However, this time, she didn't have any wild fruits left this time, it was Dad carrying her on his back. Dad liked her now. She fantasized about her father taking her to see a doctor, but to her surprise, Father walked into the apricot blossom forest and kept walking deep into the mountains. "Dad!" Adai panicked. "There are elixirs in the mountains." Adai heard his father say this and believed it again. There are monsters in the mountains, and naturally there are elixirs. These are all rumors that I have heard since I was young. Adai and her father walked through the apricot blossom forest and then into the mountains. Moving forward, even the most experienced hunter in the village dared not venture into the deep mountains. Her father put her down and hastily said, "Wait here, I'll go pick the medicine," before running away. Adai watched her father hurriedly running towards the apricot blossom forest, wanting to say to him, "You're going in the opposite direction," but before he could say it, her father disappeared. "Dad, will you come back with the medicine?" Chapter 5. Mother, please. You are listening at novel-full.audio. Adai lay on the ground, watching the blue and white sky gradually turn gray and then black, with stars shining one by one. Her father had not yet returned. Adai couldn't hold on anymore. The stars in the sky became blurry and messy. Her last thought was, will Dad be in danger? Then, he sank into endless darkness. The night became even darker. Adai lay motionless in the grass, and in the nearby bushes, a few pairs of green eyes flickered. After hearing a commotion, the green light gradually gathered around. A wolf tentatively sniffed at her, but as if startled, it immediately jumped away and let out a low, "ow." A big snake gave the wolf a contemptuous look, slowly approached, licked the back of her hand, tilted its head, as if in doubt. A little fox jumped over and stared at Adai's face, raising its front paws and holding a vermilion fruit in its paws. "Ow!" Hiss. The wolf and snake made a sound to stop it, but the little fox ignored. With its paws exerting force, it squeezed out the juice from the fruit, and the juice dripped onto Adele's lips one by one. Suddenly, a white light shone brightly on the dark and secluded mountains and forests. A wolf, a snake, a fox, and other green eyes hidden in the bushes suddenly ran away and disappeared completely. The white light seemed like a wall, inside which several figures faintly appeared, either graceful or short. "Is this the secret you're taking me to see?" The woman's dignified voice suppressed her anger. "Mother." The child's voice sounded softly. "No way," the woman said solemnly, "a few days ago, you sneaked out of the valley. If you don't punish me, you are already the aunts and senior sisters in the valley. For the sake of your young and weak physique, why do you still want to bring outsiders into the valley today? Mother, please, she's not a bad person." The child's voice became more and more restrained. "Zitting. Have you ever thought about why there is a rule prohibiting anyone from entering and leaving the valley in Wuyo Valley? Why should we be isolated from the human world?" The woman's voice became increasingly stern. The childish voice stopped speaking, and the small figure lowered its head. "That was a lesson from the blood of thousands of our people. You haven't experienced it, so you don't know. 700 years ago, we were almost wiped out. Do you know how Wuyo Valley came about?" The woman seemed to recall the bloody past, her words filled with a sense of solemnity. "I know." The little one whispered. "Are you still out of the valley? Are you taking outsiders into the valley?" The woman sternly rebuked. "But she's really different." "Mom," the little person said anxiously, "the people in her village all hate her. Beating her shows that she's an enemy of those humans. Isn't that right? She's on the same side as us." "Nonsense." The white light gradually faded, and the figures inside became blurry, with only a determined sound of hunting. The demon tribe retreated to the worry-free valley, never leaving the valley, and never having any interaction with humans again. The divine phoenix's last wish: no one can disobey the demon tribe. Finally, the white light disappeared and the figure disappeared into the darkness. On the mountain road leading to the apricot blossom forest, a short and small old tree was crazily shaking its bare branches, causing the dry texture on the trunk to distort and the roots to break through the soil. A little lark landed on his withered branch, tilting its head to look at it. "Old tree, what are you doing?" The old tree cannot speak, it just twisted its trunk and its branches pointed in the direction of the apricot blossom forest below the mountain. The little lark flew into the air and saw a group of human cultivators walking towards the mountains. "This mountain is not right, why does it seem to have spiritual energy? There won't be another demon spirit cultivation, will there? How could it be?" Shizu said, "Demons have been extinct for 700 years. The little skylark was so frightened that its wings trembled. It turned its head and flew into the mountains, flapping its wings in front of the old tree. Cultivator. Monk. The old tree's body twisted even more impatiently, and its bark changed from a dry light gray to a purple hue. The little skylark flew high again and found Adai lying on a large rock in the mountain. Her whole body was covered in a faint golden light, and a small golden phoenix appeared faintly around the golden light. The little skylark trembled and almost fell. A scream of "Zhi" pierced through the silent mountain spirit, followed by a chaotic roar of birds and beasts. The green eyes that were originally gathered around Adai's side to explore were the first to burst out, lying on the spot where the white light appeared and howling. The green-eyed snake continued to knock on the door like its tail, only to find hard rocks, but it did not notice them. Instead, it used its head to hit it, and in no time, its head was pounded with green blood. Other green eyes saw it and imitated its appearance to collide. Soon, there were puddles of red and green blood on the ground, but no green eyes thought it was wrong. More and more green eyes are rushing in from all directions, with various colored little eyes emerging. Some are wriggling their bodies, some are struggling to flutter their wings, some are running on short legs, and they are densely packed, surrounding Adai tightly. Lamentations and collisions also rise and fall in the valley, which is truly spectacular. "What sound?" the woman's voice asked. "Yes. Those animals are hitting rocks. Thinking it's our door." Another woman's voice answered in a helpless tone. "These creatures are really stupid, mother, let's go take a look. There must be something going on. Although those creatures may be stupid, they are from the same roots as us," said the childish voice urgently. Apricot Blossom Forest. The monks gradually became more serious. "Why are there so many birds flying in the sky on this big night? And there's the roar of beasts. Can't there really be spirits around?" The young cultivator was excited and nervous, and he had never seen any spirits before. "It's here. We have reached the end of the apricot blossom forest," and the cultivators looked at the dark mountain forest, clearly feeling abnormal. "Let's go." With the belief of slaying demons and eliminating them, the cultivators rushed into the forest without hesitation. They searched everywhere, but apart from occasionally encountering a small beast and snake, there was nothing. "Look. Here." The young monk found a large patch of blood in the grass and was extremely excited. The elderly cultivator glanced at him and snorted coldly, "That's normal blood. The red ones are from beasts, and the yellow and green ones are from reptiles." The young monk chatted and remained silent. "There's nothing unusual, it's like a battle between the scales and feathers of beasts and insects," speculated a cultivator. The leading cultivator was unwilling and searched the mountain again, but did not find anything unusual. Finally, he reluctantly returned and said, "Let's go down the mountain." However, this time they stopped in front of the old tree. The young monk leaned against the tree trunk and complained, "I've been walking all day. Let's take a break and eat some dry food." He has just started and has not yet been able to break through the valley. Although other cultivators looked at him with disdain, they also understood him. Just as the young monk opened his dry food bag and prepared to eat 2 bites of cake, the older monk's eyes narrowed slightly and he said coldly, "So it's here." Chapter 6, Little Lord, you must be well behaved. You are listening at novelfull.audio. So quickly, the young cultivator felt like he was just blinking. Before he could take out his cake, he saw the sword light flashing and the sword energy brushing against his ear. He was covered in cold sweat, and the cake fell to the ground. He immediately turned around and saw his martial uncle's sword inserted into the trunk of the tree. The sword was still trembling slightly, and there was dark red blood oozing out from the trunk. "He is a very powerful cultivator." A sword pierced through his tree pill. "Shu Bo, please. Take care of Huang Er. Please." The old tree heard distant sounds in its ears. "Lord, I'm sorry, Uncle Shu is no longer useful and cannot continue to take care of little Lord. I'm sorry, many images flashed before the old tree's eyes. He saw his youthful self, tall and able to bloom yellow flowers and bear red fruits. He saw humans planting vegetables and fruits under his tree, singing songs of harvest around him. He saw the Lord covered in blood holding the little Lord wrapped in golden light in front of him with his hands covered in blood. He saw the little girl running back and forth in front of him, running into the mountain, and then down the mountain. He saw the little girl running tired and sitting under the tree, eating fruit. He spread out his branches and leaves to shield her from the sun. He saw the little girl touching his dry and cracked trunk, frowning and asking him, "Tree grandpa, it's already spring, why haven't you sprouted?" "Yeah, he's so old that he can't run with the little master anymore. In the past 2 years, even the leaves haven't grown." "Grandpa Tree, I'll water you. You grow up quickly." "What a silly child, they are all tree grandfathers now. How can they grow up?" "Little Lord, Grandpa Tree is not growing up anymore and can no longer accompany you. You must take good care of yourself." 9 years later. At night, the worry-free valley is shrouded in faint smoke. The worry-free grass has formed dewdrops and sways comfortably in the night breeze. In the grass, fireflies shine brightly, causing clusters of dewdrops with small white flowers to chat and sway their red sepals to chase after them. After another 100 years of training, we can transform. I want to become a beautiful human woman. I've already thought of my name, I want to be Aju. A dewdrop grass swayed its red calyx, imagining it as a human-like dress. Another dewdrop grass wrinkled its petals and said, "You haven't even seen any humans, how do you know what looks good? Maybe you've become ugly." "Humph, I changed according to Adai's appearance. Adai looks good." Azu rolled up her petals and looked at the window in the stone house next to her. Inside the window, there was a reflection of the woman's figure, and there was a shadow next to her, only reaching her shoulder. She lowered her head, and the sound of doo-doo pounding medicine came from the room. The other dewdrop grass was full of distress. "I haven't figured out what to change yet. Why do everyone want to cultivate into humans? We haven't seen humans for a long time, and we won't see them again. Humans only appear in Grandpa Zhu notebook. Oh, Little Green is here again. A little guy with green eyes, a human head, and a snake body came wriggling and twisting, and his beautiful face was full of pain. Little Green meandered through the grass, his newly molted body pulling a green blood band on the grass. At the entrance of the stone house, she softly shouted, "Adai." The door opened and a human girl walked out, wearing a flowing skirt. Her face was round, like a full moon in the sky, and her voice was gentle. "Is it Little Green? Did she molt again?" Little Green's little face wrinkled into a ball, enduring the pain and grievances. "Come lie down, I'll apply medicine to you and it won't hurt anymore." Adai helped Little Green lie on the stone bed in the clinic. "Don't move, I'll go and dispense medicine for you." Adai went inside, and a boy wearing white embroidered golden auspicious cloud text approached Little Green, staring at her body covered in green blood. He swallowed his saliva and said, "Are you peeling? Is it so painful?" Little Green nodded and said in a small voice, "This is my last molt. After I molt, I will grow up." The boy's eyes lit up and he said, "Isn't it possible to grow very tall when you grow up?" "Well, it's about the same height as Adai." "Really?" The boy's face lit up with joy. Xiaolu looked at his short stature and said, "Junior brother Lu, how many more years do you need to grow taller? Why do we all slowly grow taller, and you still keep being so short?" The boy swung his sleeves and went out. A moon-white shirt adorned with golden edges, even the embroidery is golden, brighter than a lamp shining on insects in the moonlight. Being human is good. Brother Lu's clothes are so beautiful. Lu Zhuchao suddenly shouted in unison. The boy turned around anxiously, his black eyes staring round. "Why do you also call me junior brother? You should call me senior brother." I'm already an adult, but you're still grass. The dewdrops rolled up their petals one after another. Xingba, everyone in Weio Valley knows that since Adai entered the valley, Lu Ziding, the younger martial brother of Lu, has two major persistence. First, to become a senior brother, and second, to grow taller. For these two reasons, I have been fighting hard for 9 years, all of which have ended in dying before I die. Until now, I am still my junior brother. So far, it still hasn't grown tall. That's right, 9 years have passed, and Adai has grown as tall and beautiful as her master. Junior brother Lu is still a small bean seedling from 9 years ago. Yu reading www.yuukangshu.net. Just as the dewdrops were tired of playing with the instant insects and drowsy from boredom, a huge scream rang out from the worry-free valley. Ah! This sound alarmed all the creatures in Weio Valley, including those with long legs, crawling ability, flying ability, and rolling ability. Because there must be fun to watch. Weio Valley is carefree every day, and the creatures are truly bored. The greatest source of joy is from junior brother Lu. Hurry up, hurry up. The dewdrops watched helplessly as everyone rushed towards Lu Shidi's yard. The little bluebird didn't forget to fly over their heads with melon seeds. The dewdrops only wished their legs hadn't been repaired yet, swaying their petals so anxiously. The courtyard of Lu Ziding is crowded from inside to outside, all the way to the riverbank. At the bottom, with a face that was both angry and funny, was Zhu Ke, the mother of Lu Ziding, who was also the master of Weio Valley and the master of all the creatures in Weio Valley. Next to him was Lu Duan, the father of Lu Ziding, who looked helpless and had eyes written, "Why is my son so foolish?" There is also Adai standing next to Zhu Ke, who has already emerged in a beautiful and charming manner. The three of them looked at the little deer in front of them with blood dripping from its neck, speechless. Finally, Lu Duan pinched his brow and said, "Son, when a snake grows up, it molts its skin. When a deer grows up, we don't need to molt." The little deer blinked its wet eyes and was very worried, "So how can we deer grow up?" This statement stopped Lu Duan from asking. I see the little green bird, knocking on the melon seeds, suddenly realized and flew out carrying the seeds to spread this joke to the flowers and plants in Weio Valley. Originally, junior brother Lu thought that molting could grow up, so he went back to his house and used a knife to cut his deer skin. Chapter 7. Master is here, don't be afraid of Adai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The flowers and plants in the valley laughed all night. Junior brother Lu is really funny. Yeah, do you remember? Last time, when the cunning guy came of age and came to Kue Shui, junior brother Lu thought he could reach adulthood by bleeding, and almost cut him off at home. Ha ha ha, fortunately master discovered it early. After the dewdrops finished laughing, they began to worry. I originally wanted to cultivate into a human man, but I could double cultivate with you as a woman, but let's forget about it. A certain dewbead grass was worried to death. Why? If it turns into something like brother Lu. Junior brother Lu looks good, and Adai says he looks good. It's all about looking good. It's really not that smart. It doesn't even grow tall. That's right. You'd better become a human woman. We can be sisters. Hey, are all human men not smart? Well, I don't know, none of us have ever seen a human man. Definitely not. If all human men were like brother Lu, how could there be so many female demons in Grandpa Yu's notebook who like it? I really want to become a girl and have a romantic relationship with a human man like in a notebook. You're dreaming. Master doesn't allow it. Humph, can't even dream. Anyway, we can't get out either. What worries me is not just dewdrop grass. Lu Duan and Zhu Ke are also worried to death, okay. Looking at his son who had recovered from his wounds but had fallen asleep due to the heavy blow, Lu Duan felt that there were a few more strands of his white hair that could not be saved. K Mei, you know, humans all say that I am rich and resourceful. When I went to school with humans, all the students in the highest academy were far behind me. You also graduated from the human hospital, and since then, people in the world dare not call me a divine doctor. Why is Tingner so mediocre? Lu Duan endured and couldn't bear to use the word stupid to describe his son, and reluctantly used the word mediocre to make up the difference. Zhu Ke was also worried a lot, but now that the situation had come to an end, he could only comfort Lu Duan, brother Duan. It was fortunate to have survived the battle 700 years ago. We were both injured quite a bit, and it must be due to our physical condition that Tingner's qualifications were not good. However, if we live in the worry-free valley in this life and have no connection with the outside world, whether our qualifications are good or not is not important. As long as Tingner can be happy, it is enough. Lu Duan sighed and nodded. Anyway, that's all I can do. Master, but why has junior brother always been a child? Adai was actually very curious about this matter. Zhu Ke smiled bitterly and said, actually, I don't know either. Tingner has had some innate shortcomings since she was born, maybe it depends on chance. Adai nodded thoughtfully, but then smiled again. Don't worry, master. I will teach my younger brother human knowledge well in the future. My younger brother is smart. Zhu Ke couldn't help but laugh and cry. He touched Adai's face and said gently, with me and Shigong, you little child, don't worry about these things. It's only right to have fun. Master, I'm not a child anymore. Adai leaned against Zhu Ke's shoulder, smelling the warm fragrance on Zhu Ke's body, and pursed his lips and smiled. She is almost as tall as her master, but she still likes to smell the fragrance on his body. Zhu Ke smiled and said, with me and master here, most of you are children. Hee hee. Adai hugged her master's arm and shook it with a coquettish expression. Who can still remember what Adai looked like when he was taken back to Wuyo Valley 9 years ago? The little girl, dressed in tattered clothes and covered in injuries, had long been a thing of the past, but Adai knew that everything was because of her master. It was her master who saved her and gave her a rebirth like life. After a farce, Wuyo Valley truly entered a quiet night. Flowers, trees, and all living things silently absorbed the essence of the sun and the moon in the silence of the night. Adai also falls asleep in his stone house. However, she didn't sleep soundly that night, and the nightmare made a comeback after not bothering her for a long time. She dreamed that she fell into a cesspool, which was very smelly, so bad that she almost suffocated and died. She really wanted to climb up, but every time she had just raised her head, she was pressed down with one hand. She struggled, worked hard, and finally lost her strength. Looking up in the cesspool, she saw Little Tail put down a rope and said in a small voice, Adai, I'll pull you up. After a while, the Little Tail disappeared, and at the entrance of the cave appeared a mother holding a fragrant roasted sweet potato. She reached out to pick it up, but her face at the entrance turned into that of a father. Her father's face was eerie and cold. Go to hell. You disaster star. You deserve to die. Then, her hand suddenly stretched out so long and twisted her neck, trying to break it. Go to hell. Die in feces, never be reborn. She cried and shouted, no, Dad. No, no, no. She was ultimately pushed into the darkness. However, she was not engulfed by the cesspool. Instead, she felt warm and surrounded by a gentle aroma. Her tears rolled down her face, and 2 words came out of her dream. Master. Master is here, Master is here. Don't be afraid, our dear Adai. Master is here. Zhu Ke's gentle voice rang out. Adai opened her eyes and saw Yu reading at www.yuukeangshu.net. Sure enough, the candles were flickering in the room, and she was held in the arms of her master. Master. After waking up from her dream, the lingering palpitations did not subside, and she choked up. Where's the master? Have we, little Adele, had nightmares again? Don't be afraid, Master will sleep with you and help little Adele drive away the bad guys. Just like when Adai had her first nightmare in Worry-Free Valley 9 years ago, Zhu hugged her and fell asleep on the warm and soft bed. Adai choked and hugged her master tightly. 9 years have passed, and she has had countless nightmares. Her master always comes to her side as soon as possible because there is a concentric jade hanging around her neck with a strand of her master's hair inside. The master injects soul energy into it, so she and her master are united and angry. As long as she is afraid of nightmares, the master will know and come to save her. She didn't know what her parents were like from a young age. At that time, she envied the children in the village, especially the boys. Wherever they went, their mothers would hold and comfort them, and their fathers would even put them around their necks and let them ride and play in the village. They would never be scolded, let alone beaten. But she will never have such a time, because she is a disaster star. How could a disaster star have such a father and mother? But she has it now. Master, even better than the mothers of those boys she envies. There is also Shigong, whose health is very poor. She sits in a wheelchair all day and coughs all year round. Shigong said that she has suffered a serious injury in the past and has not been able to recover with her medical skills for hundreds of years. However, Shigong is very gentle and gentle. She never hits anyone, doesn't even know how to speak loudly, and even grills sweet potatoes for her to eat. She wants to grow up quickly, learn her master's skills, treat her master's illness, help her junior brother recuperate, and live happily with her master's family in the Worry-Free Valley forever and ever. Chapter 8. One Day of Adai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's morning. Jinwoo came out, shining brightly on Wuyo Valley, and the little creatures in the valley woke up one by one. Adai got up early and checked Little Green's skin, and everything was fine. Xiao LV walked happily and said, Adai, thank you. When I grow new skin, I will really grow up. Then, I can walk on my feet like a human. Alright, then you can dance and show me what you said. Adai smiled and sent Little Green out. Alright. Goodbye Adai. Little Green's voice gradually faded away in the dewdrop grass. Adai has a lot of things to do every day, but she is very busy. After seeing off Xiaolu, Adai went to the soul room first. In the soul room, there are rows of glass bottles, each with a green light cluster floating quietly in the bottles, with different shapes. They are all the souls of the Worry-Free Valley creatures who have fallen from their physical bodies during the long cultivation process. Adai's master, also known as the Valley Master Zhu, collected the souls in a soul-raising bottle to help them slowly repair and wait for their new physical bodies to grow. Adai's master is very powerful, the kind she wants to be the most. She is beautiful, gentle, and skilled in medicine. Every demon in the valley comes to find her when she is injured. Of course, everyone has come to find Adai now. Adai has learned 70 to 80% of her master's medical skills, and she can cure any small problems. However, there is one skill that her master has never taught, which is the legendary resurrection. Adai only learned to help her master raise her soul. Adai comes to check every day to see which bottle has enough soul-nourishing oil to add. A little soul was originally floating in the bottle, but when Adele approached, it began to float around like a flash, changing into various shapes as if greeting Adele. Adai smiled and knocked on the glass bottle, naughty. The little soul stuck to the wall of the bottle and pressed her fingers together. Adai played with the souls for a while, then went to the backyard to take care of various flowers and plants. They were all herbs that needed to be used for medicine. Then, it's time to go to Grandpa Zhu Yu's place. Grandpa Zhu Yu is an elderly person from the Worry-Free Valley. Like Adai's master, he has witnessed the human world and experienced the Great War 700 years ago. There is not much left for this wave of elderly people. Although demon spirits have a long lifespan, their physical bodies have limits, and many elderly people have become souls in glass bottles due to the fall of their physical bodies. Adai. Adai. As soon as she left the yard, the dewdrop grass outside shouted out. "Adai, are you going to Grandpa Zhuyu's place? Remember to ask us if the new storybook is ready," exclaimed Dewdrop Grass Azu, who longed for the human world in the storybook and even dreamed of having a romantic relationship with a human man. "All right, I remember." Adai smiled and waved to the dewdrops, heading towards Grandpa Zhuyu's cottage. "Adai is here. Adai is here." Adai had just walked to the entrance of Grandpa Zhuyu's yard and the green plowing bird living next door chattered away. "Good morning, Qinggang." Adai greeted her, brought Qinggang's favorite sweet rice, put it in a small bag made of wudong leaves, poured out a handful, and fed it to Qinggang. "Adai is good." Qinggang pecked at Adai's palm. The sweet, fragrant, crisp and sweet sugar rice was so delicious. Qinggang was so happy that she turned around and fell to the ground. She became a little girl in a blue skirt, holding the sugar rice in a wudong leaf, and went into Grandpa Zhuyu's cabin with Adai. Someone has already arrived. Junior brother Lu Ziding. Lu Ziding sat at a small wooden table, holding his chin and pondering his heavy life. "No, Lu Sheng. There are various delicious dishes on the small wooden table, all made by Grandpa Zhuyu. The spirits of worry-free valley drink dew, absorb the essence of the sun and the moon, and do not need to eat. Therefore, only Grandpa Zhuyu has food here. 700 years have passed, and Grandpa Zhu still misses the human world in the past, which is why he wrote a notebook about the emotions and love in the human world, and made 3 meals a day according to human habits. Before Adai arrived, only Qinggang Bird and Xiaolu Creek Pavilion came to his place to eat, but a bird and a deer knew what. After Adai arrived, it was only then that Grandpa Zhuyu's spirit was greatly boosted. He studied delicious food every day and asked Adai to come and eat, asking if it was the same as the human world outside. Actually, Adai wants to say that she doesn't understand either. The most delicious thing she has ever eaten in her life is roasted sweet potatoes, but she couldn't bear to disappoint her grandfather. She praised every delicious dish very sincerely, and wished Grandpa Yu even happier. He had to come to his place to have 3 meals a day. Adai looked at Lu Ziding's worried expression and knew what he was worried about. Looking at Qinggang again, a sudden inspiration came to his mind. "Junior brother. I know why you're not tall anymore." Upon hearing this, Lu Ziding immediately became mentally alert. Even Qinggang forgot to count the sugar rice and opened his eyes wide to listen. After all, the secret that the whole worry-free valley knows is that the junior apprentice wants to grow taller. Adai's eyes wandered between the 2 little ones, then pondered, "Is it because you love to eat human food too much, junior brother? Look, both of you love to eat, both of you are not tall." Qinggang disagreed, his cheeks bulging. "Adai. I'm only 400 years old. He's 700 years old." Adai nodded and said, "That's right, Qinggang is just a child." Qinggang's voice dragged on for a long time, and she felt that human food was so delicious. If she can't grow tall because she eats human food, then she should just stay so tall. Yu reading www.yuyukangshu.net. She's not senior brother Lu, she insists on growing tall. After listening, Lu Ziding wilted again. Who understands? When his mother tricked him and took Adai as his disciple, she said Adai was his senior sister and he was his junior brother. Of course he is not convinced. He is 700 years old and Adai is 9 years old. Isn't he his senior brother? His mother took 7 fruits, counted them to 7, added 2 more, counted to 9, and asked him if 9 was more than 7. He was dumbfounded by the obvious addition of 2 fruits, and thus admitted his status as a junior apprentice. Later, his father laughed at him. Refusing to study hard is the end of it. From then on, he and Adai followed their father to class together. He finally found out that 700 had such a bunch of fruits. However, the status of his junior brother cannot be changed anymore. The most important thing is that Adai gradually grew taller and taller, and he still looked like a small dwarf grass. The two of them stood together, and anyone who saw the demon spirit of Wuyo Valley would say that Adai was a senior sister and he was a junior brother now. Adai is as tall as his mother. He went to the mark on the wooden door every day to measure it, which was exactly the same as 9 years ago. Ha ha ha. Adai is here. Come and take a look, what did I do today? Grandpa Zhu Yu came with a plate of green and yellow things. The new dish I developed, eat it quickly. You need to take advantage of the heat. Adai looked at a pile of green paste and saw a yellow thing in the middle. The yellow thing was still coiled up in circles. Adai felt that the shape of this thing was inexplicably familiar. Xiao Qingying began to admire, wow, is this made after the appearance of a small snake? Adai nodded and said, okay, if you say a snake is like a snake, it's better than the thing in her memory. Chapter 9. Adai's One Day 2. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Grandpa Yu is particularly proud, its name is Reincarnation. Adai. How about this name? Adai. Grandpa Zhu Yu asked eagerly. Grandpa Zhu Yu is not only passionate about making human cuisine, but also passionate about giving each dish a beautiful name. Adai murmured, Grandpa Yu, your name is so great, so fitting. It's so good that it's hard to praise, isn't it really? Reincarnation. Food is eaten into the stomach, and then it becomes like this. According to the human agricultural knowledge taught by the teacher, humans use it to fertilize crops, and then return to I can't think further. Xiao Qingying's eyes lit up, wishing Grandpa Yu. This name is simply amazing. Adai. Xiao Qingying, it's a bit too much. Grandpa Yu was very happy, touching his beard and shaking his head. Green is the color of all things in spring, yellow is the time when leaves fall and return to their roots. In the 4 seasons of the world, spring, summer, autumn, and winter cycle back and forth like this. Adai. Sorry, Grandpa Zhu Yu, it's me who is shallow. Lu Ziting is very abnormal. On weekdays, he would have been chattering and boasting, showing off the little knowledge he inherited from his father. However, today he was unusually quiet. After listening for a while, he said, I'll leave first, and left in a low mood. Senior brother, why don't you eat? Xiao Qingying frowned lightly and muttered. This is really strange. Junior brother loves to eat human food the most. Adai thought for a moment and said, it's okay, let's eat first. Junior brother, this is an old habit that has happened again while eating. Adai and Qingying also had to listen to Grandpa Zhu Yu's memories of his past in the world. For thousands of years, there are too many memories. At that time, I was just a blade of grass growing in someone else's wheat field. The family wanted to pull me out, but the child from that family insisted on keeping me and watering me every day to talk to me. Later on, I stayed at his house for 60 years until he went from a little boy in a corner to a drooping old man, and finally passed away. Ah, humans, that's life expectancy, it's too short. The story of Grandpa Yu and his human friends has been listened to by Adai and Qingying many, many times, but they still listen very carefully, and at the appropriate time, they will interject what happened later. It's really good. Let Grandpa continue telling the story. Adai and Qingying had breakfast and went to school. Shigong teaches in the school every morning, and all the creatures in Wuyo Valley can go and listen. Adai has been studying non-stop for 9 years since entering the valley. Teacher Gong teaches a lot of knowledge, including literacy and numerology, agriculture and natural labor, astronomy and geography, divination. There is nothing in this world that Master Gong does not understand. Grandpa Zhu Yu said that Shigong used to have the talent of a national teacher, and there are even rumors in the world that those who obtain Shigong will gain the world, and those who obtain Shigong will prosper in the world. Just however, all love and hate, obsession and resentment, nostalgia and forgetfulness, have scattered in these sides over the past 700 years. Wuyo School. When Adai and Qingying arrived, many little demon spirits had already arrived. Everyone is doing their own thing. Some are whispering gossip about the worry-free valley, some are secretly reading their notebooks with their heads down, and some are focused on eating snacks. Suddenly, the school became quiet and there was no sound at all. The little demon spirits sat upright, looking very serious and honest. Even Adai and Chingen quickly walked to their small wooden table and sat down. Adai and his junior brother Lu Ziding share a small wooden table. The little green next to Lu Ziding is still burying his head, with a snake tail coiled into a chair. His small body sits on it, and his small hands are holding a notebook with great interest. Tears fall on the pages of the book, completely unaware that danger is approaching. Ahem. Adai coughed hard. Little Green didn't hear, but Aunt Joey's sharp gaze came over. Adai quickly lowered his head and could only wish Little Green good luck. But obviously, Little Green was not very lucky. I don't know what plot she saw, but she was so fascinated. Aunt Joey reached out and snatched the book, only then did Little Green realize. With tears still hanging on her face, Little Green lowered her head and admitted, Aunt Joey, I was wrong. Wrong. Aunt Joey glanced at the title of the book with anger in her eyes. Damn it, old Juyu, write all these love stories for you to read. It's like poisoning you. Remember, humans are not as gentle, kind, and righteous as old Juyu wrote. They are the most heartless and shameless things in the world. You must always remember them in your heart. Yes. Little Green knows. Little Green's voice was so small that she couldn't even look into Aunt Joey's eyes, and her face turned red. Taking advantage of the chaos here, the little green bird gently pulled Chinging and stuffed a small handful of melon seeds into Chinging's pocket, preparing to eat them when Shigong came to give a lecture later. Grandpa Zhuyu once said that Jiuwei Gu used to have a human lover. Jiuwei Gu went to the East China Sea and Kunlun Mountains to search for rare treasures and collect precious medicinal herbs for him, only to help him increase his cultivation and refine magical tools. Once, the lover was seriously injured and needed a medicinal guide. Without hesitation, the ant slaughtered a dragon in the sea and fought against it with the power of a fox. She narrowly escaped death and returned with a serious injury, eventually bringing the medicinal guide. However, she also discovered that the lover not only had a woman with him, but also had a young son. Originally, this young man had a childhood sweetheart with her for a long time, only seeking the spiritual power of the nine-tailed anti-demon spirit to be with her. However, he had been secretly in contact with Qingmei and even gave birth to a child, leaving only Auntie in the dark. At that time, my aunt was so angry that she wanted to duel with these two people. However, my lover was fiercely protecting the woman and used her refined sword to pierce 90.9 and 80.1 holes in my aunt's body. My aunt, who was already seriously injured, had a desire to break her soul. It was only when the Lord and your master arrived that she saved her life. She closed her door and recovered from her injuries, so she did not participate in the Great War 700 years ago and was able to survive. Grandpa Zhuyu always sighed with tears when telling the story of Aunt Jiuwei. He wrote about the joys and sorrows between humans and demons, but dared not write about Jiuwei, afraid of stirring up her sadness. When Adai heard this story, he once asked who the Lord was. Grandpa Zhuyu didn't say anything, he just fell into a demon and murmured to himself. It's all gone. It's all gone. It's all gone. Adai's ear seemed to be still whispering to Grandpa Zhuyu, and in front of her, Little Green's words had turned into ashes in Aunt Jiuwei's hand. Little Green's aggrieved tears trickled down, but Aunt Jiuwei was not a bit soft-hearted. All of you, the little monsters who have fantasies about human men, listen to me. Human beings are different in appearance, cunning and unfeeling. Sweet words on the mouth make people happy, but inside there is only coldness and utility. I hope you will remember. Pop 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 pop. Several storybooks were dropped, while the broken ones were the little demon spirits that had just transformed into human female bodies, full of beautiful dreams. All the little spirits were afraid of Aunt Jiuwei's harshness, except for Adai, who saw tears in her eyes when Aunt turned and left. 700 years have passed, is it still so painful? Chapter 10. Long and Carefree Years. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Shigong Lu Duan entered in a wheelchair. The hem of the white robe fluttered and covered the legless lower body, but even without legs, it could not conceal the refined demeanor of the master. Master, are you the best man in the world? Better than the fathers of all the children in the village. Those fathers who love their children don't have as much knowledge as Shigong. Oh no, there's no father in the village who has such knowledge. Learned, good. Looking, able to speak gently and never hit people. When Adai first came to the valley, he accidentally broke a bottle of medicine that was being refined in the medicine house. It is said to be for the younger Marshall brother's health. Inside, there is a medicine called Jinya, which takes 300 years to mature. Master finally waited for this day. She was frightened and very self-blaming. At that time, Shigong did not hit her, nor blame her. Instead, he comforted her and told her not to be afraid. It's okay, Jinya is still planting in the garden, waiting for another 300 years. The time of the demon spirit is long. She was shocked. Is there such a man in the world? Shigong is really much better than her imagined father. Master and Master are the best mothers and fathers in the world. Qinggang, come and talk about it, said Master Gong's gentle voice. Xiao Qinggang stood up with a red face, half a melon seed shell still sticking to the fur on his collar. I didn't eat melon seeds. Well, I didn't eat it. Master said kindly, I just wanted you to talk about your physical skills. Xiao Qinggang stuttered, I can treat epidemics. Well, sit down. The teacher continued his lecture. The lesson that Master is teaching today is about the relationship between demons and humans. Every demon has an innate skill. For example, a master is skilled in medicine and can bring back life from death. The place where Qinggang is located is completely free from epidemics, wishing Grandpa Yu a bountiful harvest wherever he goes. Many years ago, demons and humans coexisted peacefully, and they used their own physical skills to help humans, as well as learning human knowledge and lifestyles from humans. That was a very wonderful time. However, later, we will never have any interaction with humans again, but you little demons still need to know about these past relationships. Don't always sneak out of the valley out of curiosity, and those who violate will be punished severely. As a gentle person like Master, speaking of the 4 words, severe punishment and no loan, is full of intimidation. When my junior apprentice left the valley, even if he was his own son, his master would hand him over to Aunt Jiwei and accept punishment. It is said that the cry of the younger Marshall brother echoed in the Wuyo Valley for 3 days and 3 nights, and the little demon spirits trembled for 3 days and 3 nights. The morning homework is over, and the little demon spirits can rest for a while. In the afternoon, it's time to practice. Practicing martial arts is relatively free, and one can learn spells, refine medicine, refine weapons. There are quite a variety. Little demon spirits can choose, of course, they can also choose not to do anything. For example, the junior apprentice Lu Ziding went back to the room and lay down in a muffled state. Xiaoqing, Zilv, and Qinggang gathered together to read the notebooks at Grandpa Zhu Yu's place. Zilv was still feeling sad about her turning into powder. Only by reading 3 new notebooks can she recover practice. The worry-free valley has abundant spiritual energy that never dries up. It can be cultivated while lying down spell. Anyway, you never have to leave the valley. What's the use of practicing spells? You can have a great time playing with your ontology skills. Adai is human and lacks essential skills. He honestly goes to the practice ground to find his master and master to practice martial arts. Adai has been practicing for 9 years. Being able to fly and possessing small spells, compared to most demons in the worry-free valley, it is very weak, not even compared to the newly transformed Little Green. Little Green's tail can fly sand and rocks when swung, and the wind and clouds can change, and what about Adele? Ah! As the night fell in Wio Valley, the insects flew back and forth carrying lanterns. Adai could only look at his palm and sigh. The master taught Adai a spell called Chao Huang. Master said that after training, there will be a group of light surrounding her, and the golden phoenix will spiral up to protect her from countless armies and horses, unable to penetrate or break through. However, after practicing for so long, it was only by chance that a small golden phoenix could hover in her palm, and only at that moment could she feel a magical power within her body. But most of the time, the palm is empty, there is nothing, and the whole body is covered in dust, not to mention the aperture, there are no spots of light. Don't sigh, how long have you been practicing? It's already very good. Master Zhu Ke touched her head. We still have a few thousand or so years in this worry-free valley, and it's not enough for you to practice. Yawio Valley is a place that exists between heaven and earth, sharing the same lifespan as heaven and earth, but is also separated from heaven and earth, illusory in an intangible place. As long as they don't leave the valley, they can live happily inside forever, and no one can find them. At least, the sentient beings in Wio Valley believe so. Years are long, carefree, but who should I try my best to show? If it weren't for Grandpa you writing the valley annals every year, everyone wouldn't even know what year it is tonight. Jijiao Bug was slowly flying ahead, holding a lamp. It was really boring. Find something to do and help Adai light up the way to Grandpa Zhu Yu's house. Grandpa Yu has already prepared dinner and Qingying is waiting for her. Adai and Qingying were eating, listening to Grandpa Zhu Yu chattering about his past stories. Then, they took a new notebook written by Grandpa Zhu Yu and gave it to Dewdrop Grass. Adai's day at Worry-Free Valley came to an end. However, when she left today, she even packed a box of lotus cake in a straw-woven food box for her junior brother. Grandpa said that in the summer of the human world, the blooming flowers and lotus cakes were the favorite pastries of his former friends. Qingying also packed a box like her and took it back to her small house on the tree. It tasted delicious when she read the notebook at night. Adai still followed the illuminated path back to her yard. As she passed by her junior brother's bamboo house, she knocked on the door, and his junior brother wilted as he opened it. Adai pretended to be surprised and said, "Oh, junior brother, how come your face has become so sharp all day long? Is that right?" Lu Ziding touched his chin and frowned. He just didn't eat for a day. Really? It looks even smaller. Like 500-year-old Ashu. Upon hearing this, Lu Ziding became angry and said, "What? How could I be like a red tail? Ashu is Lushu, with a red tail. Recently, he has grown very fast, and at the age of 500, he is almost taller than his 700-year-old junior brother. Even if he dies, he is unwilling to admit it." Adai opened the food box and the fragrance of lotus cake floated out. "What did you take?" Lu Ziding sniffed. "Wishing Grandpa you the lotus cake." Adai opened the lid of the food box, and the beautiful lotus cake looked much more delicious than the noon reincarnation. Lu Ziding walked back and forth in the room for 8 times, swallowing his saliva and asking her, "Adai, if I don't eat today, it will make me look even smaller, won't it?" I'm starving and losing weight." Adai smiled and dragged on the long ending. "Well, I might as well eat it, don't you think?" Lu Ziding's eyes stuck to the lotus cake and couldn't move away. "Yeah, you eat, I'll go back first. Dewdrops are still waiting for my notebook." Adai pinched the notebook in her hand, chuckling inwardly. "Step out of the bamboo house." As the insects danced gracefully, I used a small lamp to write a character for Dai and a character for Ting at night, sparkling and beautiful. The night breeze blew on Adai's face, blending with the fragrance of various exotic flowers and plants that are not found in the world. She took a deep breath. Wuyo Valley is really good. The villagers always say that there is a fairyland in the sky, where immortals reside. Can the place where immortals live be as good as Weo Valley? Adai doesn't believe it. I hope Worry-Free Valley will always be better.